Okay, so welcome everybody, and Charmaine. We are ScaleUp Africa. My name is Olivia Asiedu-Ntow, Amma Gyampo, and we currently have Charmaine Hayden online with us to talk all things entrepreneurial and virtual around what we're trying to achieve, but also to learn a bit more about Goodsoil VC. So I'm going to throw the question back to you in terms of just let us know a little bit about what you guys are up to at Goodsoil, and tell us what Goodsoil is about, really.
Okay, so Goodsoil is a venture capital firm investing in startups across the UK and sub-Saharan Africa. We set up because we identified that there weren't that many venture capitalists that invested in the way that we want to, in lean startups and diverse startups, and startups were not only tech but also tech enabled. So we wanted to be able to do that pre-seed and seed stage and recognize excellence and build a new ecosystem and infrastructure around the demographics that we look for, which tend to be underventured founders and underventured areas of the world. So we're here currently in Ghana, came here to look at an investment deal and ended up staying beyond COVID because the borders closed, and it's been a really great experience because we've also been able to explore a little bit more of the startups that are here, and hopefully we'll be closing some deals soon.
Excellent. It's good to hear. It's good to see things are still happening in the investment landscape. How do you think COVID will change the way that you source deals and select more from your portfolio for your portfolio?
I think it will make it really a lot easier. Our investment thesis is remote first anyway, so we do look at people who can operate lean and ideally will have at least started remotely, if possible. So for us, it makes it a lot easier to find these people, and anyone who could be working remotely is likely to have at least tried it now to see whether it works for their company. So it's not us forcing them to do something brand new. Or encourage them to do something brand new. It's something that they would have experienced either via their workplace if they are only just transitioning, or via their startup, they would have had to reacclimatize themselves anyway.
So since you've kind of been in Ghana, because this is your first time in Ghana, right?
Mm-hmm.
So since you've been in Ghana, how have you found the terrain in terms of not just business, but in general, how have you found it?
I found it. I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it. And definitely grateful to have been here during the times of being in lockdown, because the space is significantly different to London, and it's just been an overall. I think that Ghana dealt with the COVID situation really well. The lockdown was quite imminent, and people have taken it very seriously, for the most part. So I think that's really important, but also it kind of gave me an opportunity to take in Ghana, to go for walks locally by myself and kind of look at the surroundings and get a real feel for the earth here, rather than just the tourist stuff. Rushing in to do a deal and then go and party into all of the hotspots. Gets you to do a bit more of that, to interact with locals and to feel immersed somewhat into the local culture, which I think is important, especially when you're exploring a landscape to invest in. You want to be able to understand local nuances, how people work, what people expect, and what are the needs of the local demographic, rather than just thinking that you're going to come with your heroic Western Cape. And we have that. Yeah, we have that in England, so you should probably have it here, and it doesn't necessarily work like that. It's been really good.
So what's held you back in terms of your portfolio companies? What are the key constraints that you've noticed in terms of Ghanaian or African-based entrepreneurs? Have you had any observations about specific traits that maybe held back?
Yeah, so I guess some red flags that we kind of would have observed when looking at startups here are registration, paperwork and number work, taxes, etc. I think that they're really important. I think a lot of startups don't declare, and which means it's harder for us to be able to see what they're actually earning. And when we're making an investment, because it's so early, we want to be able to make sure they're going to do those things in order to secure further investment or to grow and scale accordingly, and make sure their revenue streams are reflected properly. And so that's a big thing. Making sure that people are domiciled close by to, if not where their premises are, I guess here is quite important. So that travel is limited, because traffic can be a little hectic at times.
It's a major productivity factor that we all grapple with, but yes.
It's not so bad here. It's not as bad as when I was in Nigeria, because Nigeria's traffic was significantly worse, and LA is quite similar. So we'll give you Ghanaians a break. You know, you are handling the traffic okay. But yeah, there are also the fact that, you know, people's, you know, not everyone has like credit scoring or an attachment to a bank. It's an underbanked territory. So a lot of the ways that you would usually do due diligence are somewhat a bit skew-if. And I noticed that a lot of founders don't price their salaries into a business pitch, which is imperative, because you want to know that they're actually going to be drawing a salary from the company rather than from just taking money from the investment checks. It's a really honest conversation, and I think that we have to be candid in conversations with all startups across the globe, not just here, because it happens everywhere. And sometimes it's an education piece, both here and in the West. But sometimes it's just because people feel like this is going to be the best way to ask people for money, is to say, I'm going to live off nothing, and I'm not even, you know, it's the whole, you know, when you're haggling with someone, when you're bartering with someone at the market, and you're telling someone, I'm not even going to earn anything from this. I think
it's not realistic. It's just not true. I mean, it's not going to happen. So
yeah, it's a bit of both. It's a bit of the untruth, and it's a bit of an exaggeration. So I think we really need to explore that and make sure that, you know, people are understanding that, and for us, looking at people who are generating something of a revenue, enough that has been documented, and in a way that looks like it's realistic to scale. And we've adapted our investment policy, the way we invest money here, so we don't release all of the funds at once. We do it via escrow systems, releasing according to people's touch points of you know, what they're investing in, how they're investing it, and why they're investing it in the beginning. Obviously people do deviate a little bit, which is okay, but I think when you have an accountability infrastructure, it kind of helps you with making sure that those investment funds are going to the right places at the right time.
Yeah, that's a top tip. Definitely one to capture that one. Yeah. And how do you deal with sales and marketing on the continent? Are you just operational in Ghana in terms of your portfolio companies, or do you have investments across the continent?
So Ghana at the moment, we don't have enough hands on deck across the board. We do look at other startups, but it's always good to have a local connection. And one of our business partners, Ashley, who's here with me in the background.
Hi, Ashley.
He lives between here and the UK, so he's here. His family are here. His office is here for one of the other businesses, so it's a lot easier. Of course, expanding into new territories is always something that you have to be a bit cautious of, because cultural nuance is different. Are very different across the board. Even if you was a Ghanaian company and you went to Nigeria, you're still going to find there are nuances that are very different, and that people require different things. So you have to be really selective about that process. At the moment, Ghana is like the central hub for us in sub-Saharan Africa. We will look elsewhere, but I think it's a nice place, because a lot of people in tech wouldn't actually go to Kenya or SA or Nigeria, but there are some really amazing tech creatives here, and there's also some amazing existing businesses, SMEs, that could be tech enabled in a way that makes them investment ready. It's just about helping them with those transitions. And at Goodsoil, we're happy to get our hands dirty a little bit and to rapple in the mud with our portfolio companies if it means that we're going to get the best results for them. So bringing in external talent, sourcing talent, both within the continent and outside of the continent that can help scale and grow. People have done have scaled similar businesses elsewhere also. It's really important to kind of make sure that they understand how to get top tier talent. If you're trying to build a world-class business, it's really important to be reaching for the stars and to be making sure that whoever you're working with is amazing also.
I think you touched on quite a number of things when you mentioned sort of some of the red flags that you've noticed as an organization when you're trying to, assist certain entrepreneurs or startups or small, medium enterprises. That's probably a lot of those are the reasons why ScaleUp Africa was born, in essence, really, is to try and kind of actually give as much pragmatic and practical helpful solutions to a lot of these SMEs. Because you're right, there's a lot of them that maybe don't really understand how to grow and scale a business purely because they've set the business up from a place of necessity. So even getting sort of mindsets in terms of wanting to help them scale, a lot of them maybe are not necessarily ready for that. So that's kind of all part of the program and the foundation of where ScaleUp Africa is kind of born from. So really wanted to kind of throw back at you and just sort of say, you definitely see the value in what we're trying to achieve, and how you feel that what we're trying to do with entrepreneurs and different women and youth, tapping into those areas, but also bringing in a bit more, connecting a bit more of the diaspora to Africa, so there's a bit more connectivity, but also to create this kind of economic empowerment. Clearly there is a need for that, and we'd love to get your feedback on where you feel a VC like yourselves could tap into an enterprise such as ours.
Well, I think, after, a conversation with you both today and previously about what you guys are doing at ScaleUp Africa, I think it's imperative, and it's in order to build real infrastructure and an African core of SMEs, not just tech startups, is really important, because so many people, like you said, naturally gravitate towards service-based businesses because it's like, okay, what do I have? I have me, I can deliver. But when it comes to scaling, it can become a problem, because if your livelihood depends on it, then you don't really want to alleviate yourself of those duties, because you're not sure if anyone else is going to be able to perform accordingly. Having someone that people can go, or a network that people can go to and tap into and ask questions, find out information, like I said, about things like taxes, about how do we find external funding, what do we need to do to get to get ready for fundraising. Most people could go to one of the tech hubs if they're doing technology, but if you have an SME, who do you go to? Because you're going to go to MEST or one of the other incubators or accelerator programs, and they're not going to be able to cater to you because they're looking at tech specific. So it's really important to have somewhere for SMEs to go, and someone who is a founder first and has scaled my own SME after working for years in that and feeling really like it, founder burn is what I call, but founder burnout is what I call it, is something that made it really apparent that if I had a service like yours in the UK, let alone in sub-Saharan Africa, I would have excelled long before I did end up, and I wasted a lot of time. But I had the privilege of living in England, where you can afford to live on the breadline, because the breadline is very different to the breadline here. So everybody should be aiming to kind of get their business up and running, scalable as soon as possible, so that they can get from that point of passion, which is what happens, that point of passion or necessity, where people think, okay, you know what, I'm going to set up a business and this is what I'm going to do. And you have this adrenaline period where you could run on thin air, completely thin air. You don't even need food or water, thin air will do. And that's sufficient. And then you're like, okay, cool. I'm now tired. I'm wondering if I'm living in a bubble. Did I start this for a good reason? Maybe all my doubters were right. But now the only thing that's keeping me going is fear of failure. Yeah. You want to be able to move towards this point before you break. So we need organizations like yours to remind people of their great skills, of the viability of their business, of finding their place in the market, but also to remind them that if everything goes wrong and you fail, that's okay, because we should fail fast. But also, what are the implications of you failing? Because human beings are more likely to move away from pain than towards pleasure. So if you're reminded that that bread line is still imminent if you don't scale, but more imminent if you fail, but more imminent if you don't start or you don't try in the right way, then you're more likely to get a good conversation from them. And being able to give people a network is invaluable. People could throw money at you, literally throw money at you, but if you don't know what to do with it, honestly, and I know everyone thinks just give me more money, I'll get more marketing, I'll get more sales. It doesn't work like that. I'm first hand tell you, one of the businesses I set up in the UK for one of the discount, specifically to sell via Groupon and Voucher, which are discount companies in the UK. I know you guys probably know, but in case someone in your network doesn't. And their offtake was so huge that I cried every time my phone rang. Like from 7 till 7, my phone was ringing. And I thought, when I get enough sales, I'll build a team, I'll build my infrastructure. But there was no time to do that. So I had to close that company down because of overkill. I had too many sales.
Yeah.
And I know most people watching this will feel like, whatever, I'll be fine when that happens, but you don't. But you need to build your infrastructure as though you already have a full team and build towards that. And those are the bits that aren't exciting for startups. They're the bits that make you feel like, I don't know if I can be bothered to do this. Like, all I want to do is make sales because I want money. I need money now. But you need to have those infrastructures. The only way you can do that is having the right mentorship, the right people around you, and the right ecosystem that's going to support your needs. So yeah, I feel like ScaleUp Africa is very necessary and imperative to the growth of the SMEs that are within the current landscape.
So what are your thoughts then on the current ecosystem of support that exists to kind of address economic justice and racial, wealth equity, which everyone is talking about right now, but that's always been a challenge, the disparity between, black-owned businesses and white-owned businesses. Performance-wise, survival rates, growth rates have always been, hugely variant. So what are your thoughts on all these sort of donor-funded programs that are very popular? International communities always donating money and talking about, we train 50,000 entrepreneurs in Africa and XYZ, but you find that the performance varies wildly.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the status quo in terms of SME support provision?
I think it's really important that whenever these initiatives come to town, number one, they spill out into the local community. I feel that a lot of them, what ends up happening is they come with, again, the Western superhero cape. We're going to go and come and save Africa. And then what happens is there are external people that come, external startups or SMEs that come into town, and they end up getting the investment or the resources as opposed to the locals. I also think that you have to make sure that if you're an international and you're coming in, you have to have a local lens. So whether that's making sure that you are surrounded by locals who are not looking at you as their savior, but are looking at you as someone who they can teach. And you need to be open to being taught by those locals in order to run a successful program, I believe. And you have to understand that only those locals know what the social nuances and the requirements are of local businesses here. Because every business is only a business if they have customers. So they have to be customer obsessed. And if your customers are locals, then you need a local to understand what customer obsession looks like. And you need to be able to explore that demographic in a wholesome way.
I agree. But it's also about thinking about how we engage the locals so they're able to think outside the box, so they're not feeling as if these international brands who've come in, they're kind of our savior. There's a fine line between trying to get them to start thinking in that way, because that's not, when you look at how we're educated and the African culture, it's completely different from sort of how we're educated in Europe. So in essence, it's kind of like, you've got to look up to your elders, even if they're wrong and they're saying something to you that's wrong, you've got to look up to them. So when it comes to sort of like thinking outside the box and kind of being that that group of individuals who would maybe say, we have so much more to give, and so let us be a conduit, in essence, for these big brands to be able to understand the intricacies of being in Ghana, or all those kind of all of those sort of things. But there's a bit of a balance that still needs to happen in terms of just getting their minds right to say, we're actually ready to be able to help you. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but it's definitely it's definitely a way that needs to.
Well, considering that Ghana is one of Africa is one of the central hubs, it's being looked at as the final frontier. Everybody knows the opportunity is huge here, it's rife. In terms of the population, a fast and growing group of middle class, fastest growing youth culture, a group of young people, the workforce is huge. There's so much potential as a whole. And I think that locals just maybe need to be educated about the facts that it's such a huge opportunity. I think it's mainly Western people that are looking at the opportunity as an opportunity, and that's what the problem is. And if we don't invest in the soil here, then we're going to have a repackaged version of the pilfering and stealing that had happened as of the ages. It is. It's just like, okay, we're going to go there. It's cheap equity, and we'll be able to do stuff. People are going to be subservient to us because they think that we know more, because we come with our fancy language and blah, blah, blah. And realistically, that's not so much the case.
No, we really wanted to just kind of have a conversation with you about, because I know you mentioned that, you're here to sort of tap into the ecosystem and see what people are doing, which is really interesting. And we're very happy to have you on board as a partner to kind of move this forward, whatever this move is. But yes, definitely want to speak with you more in terms of looking at what we're trying to do with the youth and what we're trying to do with sort of women-led initiatives. And yeah, just start to change and create this movement of economic empowerment within Africa and sort of the diaspora, and just making that connection.
Well, I think that's what's really required. I think that in most communities, and in any businesses that really survive and really strive to do amazing things, one of the biggest things that they will all talk about is a sense of community. A lot of tech startups go to San Francisco to go and explore Silicon Valley, not because Silicon Valley is a magical place, but because it's a hub where loads of people who have loads of experience are there and very local and are open to helping. And I think we also need to be encouraging people that are CEOs of top companies and product managers at top companies to be understanding what their value is and what value they can add to the local economy. And I'm not talking about Western ones, I'm talking about people who do huge things here, because there are huge corporations here all around us. And there are people who know how to manage money all around us and are able to offer tax services all around us. And it's just like, okay, how do they position themselves so that they can play a role and give back? And I think that we need to throw the ladder down and be able to offer assistance to people. It might just be an hour a month, but that hour a month could change the complete direction of a SME. And make them go from being like a small hair salon that's run by, one person who also does the hair, to someone who owns a chain of salons across Sub-Sahara, just because they understand how to build chain companies and what is required. How do you franchise? How do you sell to other people? How do you onboard people? Getting recruitment professionals involved to show okay, how do you hire your first 5 team members? It's usually the most scary thing ever, because people thinking, well, how am I going to onboard people to come work for free for me?
Yeah.
And I'm always like, well, you're not asking them to work for free, because you're giving them a value proposition that, if you believe in your product or service, it far extends working for free, because they're going to be working for something that's going to build them a future that is going to surpass anyone that they could work for. So I guess it's just about understanding your product, understanding those techniques that will help you to lead a team, and that's from the front and the back. You don't always have to be the specialist in your team. You just have to be someone who can drive people. So it's just about kind of core tips like that you would get from mentors and people that have done it before. And also it's very empowering. I think that having mentors is really great for a mentee, but it really, really is great for the mentor, because the mentor often doesn't realize their own skills until they discuss them with someone else. It's great for their confidence. It makes them feel good about giving. And most people give for selfish reasons. Even if you give to charity, there's a sense of I've done my bit for today. Yeah, it is a selfish endeavor. So there is still give and take, whether or not you physically receive something or not. So it's just about, making sure that people understand the value of that across the board, and that there is someone or some people like you guys who are willing to pull those people together. Currently, I don't think there's so much of that that's coming from the local infrastructure, and I don't think people are looking at local businesses as people that are being heralded, unless they're the top 5 richest, unless that's something. And that you have to realize that there are some people that don't necessarily make as much money as other people, but they're actually driving the ships of those people, and they're doing the legwork, and those are the people you want to learn from. Like, realistically, you want to know, okay, how do I drive a ship? Like, what do I do? And then how do I recruit a team? How do I keep a team interested in being here? How do I motivate them? How do I build a culture that can be replicated whether I'm here or not? And I'm not panicking about being stuck in Ghana, because I've built cultures and I've built teams in my businesses that enable me to be here comfortably and know that the cogs are still going to turn regardless of whether I'm there or not. And that's what we want SMEs to be able to understand within themselves. And there's only one way to do that, and that is to tap into ecosystems that can pull those things together. Because when you're a startup, especially when you're somewhere like here, you're trying to have 15 arms. You're playing so many different roles. You don't have time to be taking yourself away from your business to be outsourcing all these different resources you need. So if you can go to one place, one hub, and be able to tap into all those things at the same time, then you're kind of in a really good place. You've got a bit of a head start, so you're closer to the finish line. I hope that answers your question. I think I deviated.
It's good to have you on board, Charmaine. I think we're very much aligned in terms of how we see things working and how we can grow the ecosystem and work more together. So we're looking forward to having you on board. Yes. We're looking forward to you being involved in the festival. We're looking forward to having you as a long-term partner, and just
absolutely
more bigger and better things to come.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Likewise, thank you for having me.